Welcome to Millionaire by 50. Thanks for joining us. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. When it comes to finance books, I tend to find that a lot of people sort of treat that there's a stigma around finance books that are very similar to porn books, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to be caught dead with one because it looks like you kind of, I don't know, like you're going to kind of respond to Nigerian princes online, right? So I want to kind of just break that stigma now. I had to read this book and it was pretty damn good. There's a lot of perspectives in here that I think people can learn. I don't necessarily blame them for the stigma. I guess, you know, when you look at the cover of the book and it's got rich in gold in big letters and then you got this bloke smiling at you, right? I'm going to go for it. Not going to go through all of the lessons of the book because there is quite a lot. I have written about them, so if you are interested in that detailed analysis, I've left a link below. But here are the top 3 lessons from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad that I pulled from the book. The first lesson from Robert is the rich don't work for money, they make money work for them. And how I can really easily explain this is, you know, when we go to work and we work 8 hours a day and we expect an income at the end of it, well, basically Robert states that the rich look at life in another way. They basically looking to put their money into a savings account and have that money compound while they sit at home and do basically nothing. I've used a savings account because we're all familiar with how a savings account works. You put money in there and then at the end of the year, your interest rate of 1% or whatever will compound it. And all of a sudden you have, like, instead of $100, $101, right? But that's $1 that you haven't had to work for. It just created itself by you putting your money into your savings account. Well, the rich look to do this with several savings vehicles, right? And that's lesson number 1. Really sort of kind of changed my perspective on things. Normal people look to work. The rich look for money to work for them, right? The second lesson that I took from Robert Kiyosaki's book was why teach financial literacy. And this was also a really, like, an eye-opener for me, yeah? So Robert states that there's this fundamental issue arising in society, and it is that, you know, rich people buy assets, middle-class people buy liabilities that they think are assets, and then the lower class have neither assets nor liabilities. So he makes those 3 distinctions, and the problem, says Robert, is the middle class subscribe to this sort of belief of buying false assets, you know, buying liabilities, and as a result, they're consistently buying themselves more debt. Now, before we jump into that any further, I think it's really important to distinguish the definition of an asset versus a liability in accordance to Robert. Robert states that an asset is something that puts money consistently back into your pocket. A liability is something that consistently takes money out of your pocket. If we use those definitions and we have a look at some of the conventional things that, you know, your parents or school or accountants might say are assets, we can really debunk them quickly. A car, for example, is not an asset. You pay for it once, and then from then on in, you're basically paying for petrol consistently and you're paying for servicing consistently. Same thing with a house, right? You take out a mortgage and you're paying the mortgage consistently. Even when you finish paying the mortgage, you're still going to consistently pay for services and, you know, having things repaired and the like, right? So by definition, these things are liabilities. And with that in mind, we're going to have a bit of a look at the psychology of the 3 different levels of society as Robert describes them. This is the psychology of somebody who is, Robert defines as being in the lower class, right? You have a job, your job produces an income which comes in and goes out for your expenses, which are a bundle of one-off things. So it might be hanging out with friends, going to the movies, buying food, all of that jazz, right? That's the life cycle of the lower class. And this probably more so suits people that are just out of high school, you know, or people that are still in uni, people that are working part-time, living with parents and things like that, you know what I mean? So this might be where you are, and it's a great place to be starting from. But then what everybody aims towards, and what, you know, you might be aiming towards right now, is to adopt the life cycle and psychology of somebody in the middle class. And what they do, as Robert defined it before, was they buy liabilities that they think are assets, primarily bigger houses, bigger cars, and they live their entire life, working hard to get a promotion to be able to afford these things. So this is what the psychology of somebody from the middle class looks like. They have an income, it comes in, and then it goes out through their liabilities, which might be a home loan and a car loan and a TV loan and a new loan for the new iPhone and stuff like that, which sort of substantiates itself as expenses that drains your income from you. Now, the thing about this cycle is it's continuous, okay? So it doesn't matter what age you are. You might be 20 now. By the time you're 60, you could still be going through this cycle, okay, where you pay off all of your initial loans and then you upgrade and then you start paying off those loans and then you upgrade and you start paying off those loans. And it works. It's a great system until you lose your job.
You're fired!
Until you lose your house, until you lose your car, until some sort of financial disaster hits and then you're in debt that you can't afford to pay off, right? That's when things start to come unraveled a little bit. So Robert sort of states that, rich people identify this problem and try and get over it. And this is how. This is the psychology of rich people. They basically work to acquire assets that generate a passive income. They use that passive income to permanently pay off their liabilities, and all the while they have their free time back. They're not working for money. The money is duplicating for them, and then they can just, spend time doing what they love. So it could be making movies, working on cars, making music, or, maybe making those tiny little boats that you put in those wee jars. I don't know. But they have the time to do that. That's lesson 2, why teach financial literacy. If you don't know any better, you could be stuck in this cycle of continuously buying liabilities and wondering why you're not getting anywhere in life, right? I don't know if it's as mind-blowing for you, but, I couldn't imagine being 75, looking back on life and realizing that there was another way, right? You don't want to be that person either. I think it's a great lesson to learn. The final lesson I took away from Robert's book, which kind of relates to that, is for us to mind our own business. And basically, in expanding upon that, Robert states that when we go to work, we are an essential gear in somebody else's money-making machine. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? We all need to be gears in some part of our life to keep the economy running, to keep goods coming in, to keep food coming in for the greater community, okay? But what Robert does say is, instead of just relying on your job to provide everything for you and providing security in the future, which you might be disappointed in, he says, or to sort of states to, be wary of the fact that you are working in somebody else's machine and work on your own machine on the side. And what he means by that is, while you are earning your income, save some of that income up to buy real assets. Now, what are the real assets? Well, Robert defines real assets as businesses that you own but don't manage, that are managed by somebody else. Stocks, bonds, IOUs, which are like, loans that the bank get. You loan money out to a friend and then you get that money back plus interest. Royalties for all of our creatives out there, so people that make scripts, make movies, make music, licensing that out and then getting money every time it's used, right? The last asset Robert talks about is, well, for all of the innovators out there, anything that has production value that can be made, that has a ready market, ready to go, like right now, okay? That's lesson 3, and the final really important thing I got from this book, which was mind your own business. Be aware that this is what's happening and work towards your own financial future. That's not selfish, it's smart, right? And if you look at it, you're kind of probably understanding now that it's a necessity. If you're relying on a job and the government to look after you, look who's in charge of the government. And look, I mean, most companies could probably be better run, let's be honest, right? So those are the 3 main lessons I took from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In terms of, the rest of the book, it was great. It has some great stuff in there about taxes. It has some great stuff in there about obstacles and how you can overcome it. Again, I've written extensively about it, and I'll leave a link to what I've written down below, so you can check that out if you want to. Dive in more to it. Or, of course, you could just buy the book. I definitely, again, I would recommend it, even just to get you into the world of, finance. There's a lot that you can learn not from this, well, especially from this book, but from other books as well. So definitely check it out. My one criticisms of the book would be, these were the first couple of lessons, and after that I didn't find lessons that kind of sprung out to me, right? It seemed a lot more motivational to get you to sort of keep reading, and I did, and I still think it's great, but it's not an action book, it's a perspective book. If you pick it up, you're going to have new perspectives. You probably do already, right? But don't pick the book up thinking it's going to tell you step by step how to change your life. It won't, right? You kind of have to figure that out for yourself. But again, still a great book overall. I give it like an 8 out of 10. Chris Reid rating, right? That's all for today, guys. Thanks so much for coming along. If you do have any comments on the book, maybe you've read it yourself and disagree, leave comments down below. Alternatively, if you do want to get the conversation started in terms of these assets that I mentioned above, definitely you can do that down below as well. I am going to be doing more videos where I look into the assets that I described before, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe, come along with me on this journey, and we'll have a bit of a look into what more we can find out. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time.